Hi, this video is on how to calculate your sample standard deviation and your population standard deviation. We're also going to do the variance of each, but your calculator will only do the ones with the arrow, your sample standard deviation and your population standard deviation. So the symbol for sample standard deviation is this one here. It looks kind of like it's the S. And this is the population standard deviation symbol. So if we go to our calculator, we're going to go stat, arrow over to calculate one var stats. We're going to type our data into list one and just hit calculate. So let's do that. First, we're going to type our data into list one, stat number one, edit, and my data will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've already typed that in. Now to find the standard deviations, I'm going to go to stat, arrow over to calculate number one var stats. L1 is where my data is at. Frequency list should be blank. Arrow down to calculate and hit enter. If you notice, my mean is 4. My sample, S is the sample standard deviation, is 1.58, and population standard deviation is 1.41. So my sample standard deviation is 1.58, and this symbol here is a population standard deviation, 1.41. So let's write those down. My sample standard deviation was 1.58, but when we do our answers, they should be one digit more than our data. Our data was whole numbers, so we should have one decimal place in our answer. So I'm using 1.6 as my sample standard deviation. Population standard deviation was 1.41. So if I round it to one decimal place, I get 1.4. Now, our calculator will not do the variances. So we're going to have to manually find the variance. Variance is just whatever S squared is. Don't use the rounded values when you square the S. Use these values. So to find our standard, our variance, we're going to square the unrounded number. So I'm going to take 1.58 on my calculator and square it. And then I'm going to take 1.41 on my calculator and square it. Don't use the rounded values. All right, I'm hitting clear. So I'm going to type in 1.58 and then square it using the X square button and hit enter. And I get 2.496. 2.496 is my sample variance. And then I do the 1.41 and square that. And I get 1.98 as my population variance. So let me come back to my paper. This ends 1.58 squared ends up being 2.49. And if I round it to one decimal place, it will be 2.5. I'm running out of room, sorry. So my sample variance will be 2.5. Here, my population variance is 1.41 squared, which is 1.98. If I round it to one decimal place, add 1 to it, and I get 2.0. So my population variance will be 2.0. So this is how to find sample standard deviation, sample variance, population standard deviation, and population variance. I hope the video helps.